Hello, I'm Bjorn, and welcome to another episode of Slime It Up with Bjorn. This is episode 50. It's a very special occasion, episode 50 of Slime It Up with Bjorn. And today, as always, we're going to make some very, very special slime. Now, this is episode 50. You all know the drill. We're going to be making slime the same way as always. All 553 million episodes or whatever it is. I got fucking Elmer's glue. I got some baking soda. I went to my mom's house and stole my mother's saline solution, and we're gonna make some fucking slime today. Welcome. This is what the whole video is, by the way. It's an hour and 15 minutes of this, so lock in. There's totally not a script in this or anything. Why would I do that? So we're gonna put our Elmer's glue, and half of that hour and 15 minutes is just the squeezing of this. Oh my god, this is fucking horrible. What? Can't believe they sold this shit to us. Alright, we're gonna just take the lid off and just dump that Elmer's glue. You can't see what's happening because of the camera angle, but we're just dumping Elmer's glue into this bowl. So we got our classic Elmer's glue hashtag sponsored content in this fucking bowl. Now we're gonna add our slime. Okay, it's good enough. Fuck, I don't think we need more slime than that. Sorry, too much slime. Too much slime. All right, we're gonna add some baking soda. Whoa! You know, I always say, sooner or later, I'm gonna make my worst video. A video worse than the first ever YouTube video I ever uploaded, which is a terrible review of Baby Driver, which is no longer on this platform for goddamn good reason. And you know what, guys? I'm not gonna front. We might be making the worst Bjorn video of all time. Alright, so we're gonna mix our baking soda into our slime here. Alright. That's it. You get that classic slime consistency that you know and love. Okay, so now we're gonna add our goopy green slime droplets. And just remember, guys, if you guys are enjoying this Slime Time presentation presented by Slime Time with Bjorn, make sure you leave a comment. Say our classic expression, slapgack slime attack, in the comments. We want to hear that slapgack slime attack in the comments. It means the world to us. Every slime gack slime attack we see. Okay, so y'all can kind of see where it's up. So make sure you leave those comments below. And make sure you guys leave a massive thumbs up. Smash that thumbs up button. I'm gonna challenge y'all to a slime challenge right now. Slime it up and slime all over that subscribe button. You guys have 5 minutes to slime up that subscribe button, or I'm never uploading another video again. All right. So we've got our slime. It's a nice ugly green color. So now we're going to add our saline solution. Whoa! It's 1 tablespoon of saline solution. For those who are following along at home on how to make the slime, this is actually working. I didn't think this was going to work, I'll be honest. I found this recipe on Wikipedia. I did not think this was going to work, but it high key appears to be working. That's actually kind of concerning. Slime it up. Slime time with Bjorn. Let me. Is that quite mixed enough? Let's get it slimed up. If you want to receive this slime in the mail, slime up that like button and sign up to our Instagram account at BjornSlimeAttack at Instagram.com. Alright, so there's our slime. That's a pretty high quality slime. It's all over my oh my god, it's all over my hands. Holy shit, I don't think I did that right at all. That is not supposed to happen. Holy shit, look at this. Look at this nasty ass shit. Gross. Kids like this stuff. Anyway, that's been Slime Time with Bjorn. Thanks for watching. And I know I've seen the comments, right? Y'all are begging, y'all are on your hands and knees praying for more Bjorn cereal reviews. Well, rest assured, I've heard the comments. More Bjorn cereal reviews is on the way. You guys can thank me later. All right, look, I honestly thought about uploading this, just this whole segment, and just saying, hey, that's the whole video. I fucking got you. I even thought about just leaving a Rick Astley at PNG for another hour and 10 minutes, so if you check the scrub time, you'd think I actually wrote a script. But you know, I'm a benevolent god. I read my comments. People say I don't read my comments. I hear those, I see those comments that y'all leave. I've read those comments that y'all have left saying I don't read the comments. I know. Someone recommended to me, fucking a year and a half ago, I think, hey, when I put out that first Get Out Guys after credit scene, hey, you should write a whole script about the human slime. I'm put you on blast. You know who you are now. You know who you are. You guys can go back and look at that comment if you want to see it. And, you know, a normal human who wasn't me would have gone, yeah, that's stupid, and moved on. That was the reaction I should have. This is actually fucking burning my hands. I'm going to cut here. Okay, I'm back. I cleaned the nasty burning. It like fucking chemically burned my skin or something. I don't know. It's very painful. But, what was I saying before I got chemically burned? Oh, that's right. Yeah, I read my comments, and so yeah, I just immediately thought, man, how would I make a compelling human slime script? Like if I was gonna do a human slime origin story, how would I fucking do it? Like, how do you make a character like that intriguing to your audience? You know, how do you make him like a hero? He seems already to be a pretty likable hero to me. He's an underdog. We already see that about him. His powers fucking suck. How does someone like him become something? And this is the story of his rise. It's set concurrently to that after credits scene, and I'll discuss it when I get into the script a little bit, how it's framed. But yeah, no, I did write an entire human slime origin story, and dare I say, damn it if it didn't turn out amazing. I've been working on this steadily for a couple months in preparation for this, and as I worked on it, the idea just came together, and it kept coming together, and all the pieces were coming to my head. You guys want to know why Justice League Dark third movie hasn't been coming out? It's the human fucking slime. To be entirely honest, I wrote a monstrously large script for this. This is a full length Bjorn movie. You're immediately gonna think I'm fucking with you. You're immediately expecting me to fucking cut the Teletubbies or some dumb shit like that. No, the prank was the fucking slime. This is real. So without further ado, I give you the human slime. Enjoy. We're going to open on a black screen. Text on screen says Part 1, Andrew McIntyre. And that's how I should describe how this script is going to be formatted. It's very different than anything I have ever written that y'all have seen. The closest comparable thing to this will be Deadlands, Season 2. It will be sort of phrased like this, but more episodically. Basically, each section or part of the script will be from a different character's point of view. And as you go through, you're going to see different characters' point of view on the same events from time to time, or maybe some context from that character's perspective to explain something that happened earlier. From that blackness, we're going to open up to 3 doctors leaning over, looking at the camera. We hear the cries of a baby. The camera's going to cut, and we're going to see a woman sitting on a birthing bed, having just given birth. Doctors cut the umbilical cord and swaddle the baby. They hand it to her, and she smiles with pride as tears roll down her eyes as she stares at the baby, cooing and playing with it with her finger. Its little fingers wrap around hers. A tall man stands next to her with tears in his eyes. He's well-muscled and wears a broad smile. He leans over and looks at the baby. The woman says, "He has your eyes." And the man, whose name William McIntyre, says, "He does, and your nose." The baby locks eyes with her, reaches its little hand up and grabs hers. Again. She smiles, then recoils. Dripping green slime begins to ooze from the baby's hand. It coats her finger. She looks at her husband and says, "I think he takes after you in another way. He's going to be different." William tilts his head and says, "No, those aren't my powers. Those are something else. Whatever they are, I'm sure he'll be great. You are going to do great things, Andrew." We're going to smash cut to the human slime working at a convenience store. Someone walks up into the convenience store and he looks up. He says, "Hello, welcome to 7-Eleven. I hope you're having a 7-Eleven day today. How can I help you?" The woman says,
Yeah, I need a pack of Marlboros. She points to the ones in the back. Those specifically. He goes, yes, ma'am. He turns and reaches for one, and she says, no, not that one, the other ones. He says, okay. He grabs the Marlboros off the wall, checks her out, and then stares at the clock. His eyes have big dark bags underneath them. We're going to cut to him walking home through the city. We're going to hear the song Mind Over Matter by Young the Giant. This is a band I really like, by the way. Highly recommend them. Play as he walks through the street. We're going to see a giant, massive title screen splash over the entire sequence. The font drips with slime, and it says, The Human Slime. As he's walking down the street, he counts the cash in his hand. He stops at a building and looks at the window display. There, we see his father standing, triumphant in his comic-accurate comic book costume. Of course, Andrew McIntyre's father is William McIntyre, aka Triumph, the DC comic book superhero. A little bit of a fun twist for y'all. The arrangement is done in such a way that you can see him, that you can stand in his silhouette and see yourself reflected back. I'm kind of trying to call back to that imagery you see in the original Captain America movie. We see a plaque that says Triumph Memorial. Basically, you can see that the human slime is standing up next to it and seeing his reflection back in sort of the silhouette of Triumph. We can see at the top of the display, in large letters, it says, anyone can change the world. Beneath it, we see a plaque that says, in loving memory, the commissioned Triumph Memorial, gift for the McIntyre family. The human slime stands up to the memorial of his father, who passed away. His own poor, cheap, convenience store outfit sort of contradicted with the silhouette of this amazing hero. Triumph's shadow looms large, but maybe the human slime can be like him, like his father. Like it does every time he sees this display on his way home from work, a look of determination comes across his face, and he continues on. We see him go into a hardware store as the song continues to play. He buys a pair of work gloves and some green spray paint. Then we see him enter a apartment complex. The song fades away as he opens the door and works his way up the stairs. He stops in front of the entrance to his apartment. He puts the paint and the gloves inside his backpack, zipping it up. He walks inside. We see an older woman cooking inside of a kitchen. She looks up at him and smiles. We recognize his mother, though she's much older now. And we see the large black eye that has grown around her right eye. As soon as he sees it, Andrew's face drops. His eyes scan over the room until he reaches an older man sitting in a chair staring at him. His mother says, "Oh, Andrew, welcome home. How was work?" Andrew says, "It was good, Mom." The older man, who's named Greg, says, "So, do you have my rent money?" Andrew says, "Greg, I don't have to pay you rent until Friday." Greg says, "No, you pay my rent money now." He steps up from the table and stalks towards Andrew. He says, "My money." He holds out his hand. Andrew holds his ground. "Friday." And Greg slaps him. Andrew holds up a hand to his cheek, shocked. He looks furious, like he's going to do something. But Greg calls his bluff. Greg says, "The fuck you gonna do about it?" We can see the human slime's fists tightening. Small amounts of green slime begin to ooze out of them, but he stands down, letting his fist fall open. "I thought so," his uncle. "I thought so," Greg says. "Just a loser. Always have been." Human slime says, "I'm not a loser." Greg says, "You work at a convenience store as a cashier. If it weren't for me, you and your mother would be out on your ass freezing to death in that cold. So how about a little fucking gratitude? Give me my rent money." Human slime says, "Take your fucking rent." He sets $50 on the counter. Greg says, "See, that wasn't too hard." Andrew pushes past him and goes into his room. He shuts the door behind him. His room, we can see just like pretty standard stuff. Lots of posters of his father and other superheroes. Maybe one of like the Flash. We see a practice dummy set up in his room for punching. It's clearly been hit a lot. And I think I should point out at this point, I don't know how you guys are picturing the human slime, but I would say the human slime is like 19 to 20. He is on the younger side, and he's pretty fit. He's not out of shape or anything. He's just a little dopey looking. He begins to punch the dummy in his room, lets out grunts of anger. We can see what appears to be a workbench set up in the corner of his room. The song Intergalactic by the Beastie Boys begins to play as we see a montage of him working. He takes the spray paint out and begins to work on his costume. We can see him spray the gloves and slightly plated bulletproof vest. He paints some green and adds accents of various greens and blacks, basically making the classic human slime look. You know, the iconic human slime look that everyone knows and loves. Once he's done, he holds it up a bright smile and admires his work. We see him in the costume, pulling it tight and then slipping out his window. We're going to smash cut to him sitting behind a dumpster with his hand on his head, looking at his phone. He's scrolling through memes. Maybe see some DC shit, maybe. I think it'd be kind of funny if, like, as he's scrolling through his memes, you see, like, shit posts about the Flash or Batman or whatever. Because if these guys were real IRL, there would be so much shit posting about Batman being literally me. I don't know. Just dumb fucking crap like that. As he sits there, we're going to hear the sound of breaking glass. It's really quiet and faint, but he hears it. He sits up, puts his phone away, and gets to his feet. He's obviously very, very excited. He walks down the street and nervously sees the shards of glass in the street. No alarm is going off. In fact, the entire street is dead quiet. He looks at the name of the building. It's a Chinese apothecary shop, and the door is broken open. He enters the room really, really carefully, looking from side to side, but we don't see anyone. He begins to look nervous. He takes 2 steps forward, then all of a sudden he's hung up on the ceiling, something pulling him up by his foot. He dangles from the ceiling, twisting by his foot. He looks down and we can see his leg is wrapped in some kind of metal, like almost like ribbon made of some sort of steel that's wrapped around his leg and held tight. He hangs upside down from the ceiling as the snake-like metal rope holds him tight. A woman steps out from the shadows and crooks her head and studies him. She holds up a second rope. In her hand, it grows rigid and straight, forming a sword. It even grows a sharpened edge. She holds it up to his neck. So, what are you supposed to be? Are you one of them? Human Slime says, I'm the human slime. And what? One of who? Who are you? What are you doing here? You know, it's illegal to break and enter like this. The woman, who's obviously Lynx, says, one of them. The alchemists. Human says, I don't know what that is. I don't know who that is. I'm a superhero. I'm the human slime. I saw the break-in and I was going to stop you. The woman seems taken aback. She takes a step back and studies him. Oh, well, that's some bad luck. I'll tell you what. I've got some business here, and I need to take care of it. So why don't you hang out here, she chuckles as she says it, until I'm done, and then we'll sort this whole thing out. She smiles and turns, heading back towards the back of the store. The human slime waits for her to go, then kind of tries to do a pull-up. He fails a couple of times, then manages to grab the rope with his hands. He sort of hoists himself up with all of his effort. And as he grabs the rope, slime leaks from his hands. The metal begins to smoke and hiss. It snaps and he falls on his ass with a quiet thud. We can see him brace, expecting her to come back, but she doesn't. He unwraps the rope from his leg and turns towards Lynx. She has her back turned as she looks at a door. He runs towards her, and she turns before he can grab her and twirls a dagger to his neck. Lynx says, you got out. Look, Super Slime, I don't want to hurt you, but you are being very annoying. I am on a time crunch here. You clearly don't really understand what's going on, so can you kindly fuck off? Human Slime says, then tell me what you're doing here. She says, I'm breaking in. What does it look like I'm doing? Also, I have the knife to your throat. You don't ask me questions. If you want to be the good guy, just follow me and be quiet. Human Slime looks both ways and nods. He says, but then I'm taking you in. She rolls her eyes. Look, I literally have a knife to your throat, dude. Is this your first time on the beat or something? Human Slime doesn't answer. She goes, oh, Jesus, it is. You picked a bad target. Look, For today, I'm not the bad guy here. Follow me or run away. I don't care. Just don't do anything. Just don't try anything. She mumbles under her breath. Fucking idiot. She moves on and he follows her. She reaches back to the door. She goes back up to the door and holds her strange rope up. She presses it into the key lock and it begins to change shape. She turns it and we hear the door click. She smiles. She opens the door and finds a large empty room. A single red light shines on a wall. Words written in red paint say, "The alchemist doesn't forgive." Link says, "Shit." She turns around and we see a man standing there pointing a gun towards her. It's as if he's appeared from nowhere. Small amounts of mist seem to whisk off his suit. He has a series of tattoos up his neck and the head of a dragon, which show the body and head of a dragon. Lynx looks towards the memory steel at her waist. The goon says, "Don't try it." She raises her hand. He says, "Alchemist wants you alive. He wants to torture you himself. He's gonna have so much fun with you. Fuck you up for what you did to Johnny. Now that was a good man." Lynx says, "He burnt a 17-year-old alive, so I fucking killed him." The goon snarls. Lynx looks past him, where the memory still dangles from the ceiling, where human slime melted part of it with his acidic slime. Human slime says, "Look, I think there's been some sort of mistake. I'm not really with her, and I really have nothing to do with what's going on. And I'm very confused. Can I just leave, or..." He says, "Shut the fuck up, or I'll fucking shoot you." Human slime says, "Okay, very clear. Understood." Lynx watches the memory steel, and it begins to move. It slithers down, then strikes forward, forming a blade at its end, stabbing the man through his shoulder. He lets out a scream and is momentarily forced away. Lynx grabs the human slime and dives into the back room as gunfire litters the doorway from the goon. "Fucking bitch!" He pulls the blade free and tosses it aside. Lynx says, "You're a fucking dead man. You and all the other alchemist assholes. I'm coming for each and every one of you." The human slime says, "She doesn't mean that. We can still work this out with words." Holes from gunfire begin to litter the wall behind them, and the human slime screams and throws himself forward. He begins to gather up slime in his hand. We can see it forming an almost ball there. Suddenly, the man appears in the room, hissing with smoke and steam. He looks up and smiles, and steam fleeps from his mouth. Lynx says, "Fuck." The man pulls his gun out to point it again, and the human slime throws his ball of slime. It lands on the guy's shirt and gun. We see it begin to hiss. The metal of his gun begins to slowly melt slowly. The man begins to scream as the acid sort of cleans through his shirt and begins to burn his skin. He says, "What the fuck? What the fuck?" Lynx laughs. "Oh man, nice shot, slime guy." She pulls her rope-like thing out and throws it out. It wraps around the man's neck. She smiles, and it turns into a blade. She pulls it tight, and it takes the man's body clean in two, leaving him in two solid pieces. The human slime just yells, "Holy fuck, you killed that guy!" Lynx says, "Yeah, no shit, he was trying to kill us. These people are ruthless. Come on." She pulls him out the door to the store, and they keep running. They stop in an alleyway. We can see the human slime is clearly freaked out. He's basically breathing. "What the fuck is all this? What the fuck?" She says, "Man, you really, really picked the wrong B&E to stop, huh?" He says, "What is going on?" She says, "And for a superhero, you were really out of touch." He says, "Look, just try not to worry about it, all right? I'm gonna leave now." She flicks her rope thing up, and it clings to one of the sort of tops of the roof. It begins to coil around her arm like a snake, hoisting her up. She says, "See you around, slime guy." The human slime says, "If I see you again, I'm gonna arrest you. You're a murderer." She just laughs and then disappears into the rooftop. The human slime checks his pocket suddenly and realizes his wallet is gone. He says, "Oh, fuck." And we're going to smash cut to black. Text on screen says, Part 2, Lynx. We're going to see Lynx walking up to a church with an older woman. She's younger, probably 4 or 5 years younger, in her teenagers. She looks up at the woman who is her mother and says, "I don't get why you're dragging me to this. It's a waste of my time." The mother says, "We came because he was a good man. Your father respected him. After what that man did, that's the least we can do." Lynx says, "Dad's dead. Who cares what he thought?" Mother says, I'm asking you to do this for me. All the people who came here, each one of them makes a difference, and they'll remember all the people who came to see them. They'll remember all of the hardship and those people who came to support them. Even if we aren't people they exactly want to see, even us, even we can make a difference. And maybe that'll make up for the wrong your father did. Link says, what my father did has nothing to do with me. Her mother says, the rest of the world doesn't see it that way. If you will not do it for that, do it for me. Link says, fine, whatever. We can see her sitting at the back of the church. Up on the stage, we can see someone giving a eulogy. We recognize him as a younger version of the human slime, Andrew McKintrey. He's talking about his father. He gives a speech. We can't hear most of it because it's like drowned out, like the audio is drowned out. She's not even really paying attention. She's just playing with the little Bible in the back of the church, like flipping through the pages. She occasionally looks up, but nothing really comes in audio. And then we're going to smash cut to her leaning against a wall at the back of the church. She's smoking a cigarette. She looks off towards nothing, and we can see a bird land on a tree branch. She watches it as the cigarette smoke curls from her mouth. A young man comes out and leans against the wall next to her. She looks over at him and says, I guess I'm not the only one who can't stand this thing. You want a cigarette? The boy turns to look at her, and we realize it's Andrew. We can see his eyes are red from crying. She picks up on it. Oh shit, you actually knew him. Andrew says, you could say that, he was my dad. Link suddenly recognizes him. Shit, yeah, you spoke. I didn't recognize you. I'm sorry for your loss. Andrew says, yeah, so am I. Link says, so you want that cigarette? He nods and says, I kinda do. I've never had one before. She offers it to him and lights it. He sucks in a deep breath and begins to cough and choke. She says, oh, easy there. You gotta take it easy your first time. Shallow breaths. He eventually gets his coughing under control, but doesn't really seem to put the cigarette up to his lips anymore. Andrew says, so my dad, you knew him? Link says, I didn't, not really. My dad was a villain, and fought yours, actually. My mom figured it was the least we could do, you know. Said he respected your dad. Oh, would I know him? Link laughs. Probably not, he was a bit of a loser. Didn't last long before he went to prison. You know, villains are like stars. They burn hot, and then they explode and take everything with them. And my dad blew up all right, but then got killed in jail. She takes a drag from her cigarette. The fucking asshole. Andrew says, we're the same way, I guess. We're the same in that way, I guess. He takes a deep, shuddering breath, trying to keep himself from crying. Link says, no, it's not the same. My dad went and got himself killed being an asshole, and Triumph went out like a hero. No one denies that. Andrew says, I wish I could see it that way. Fuck it. He takes another drag from the cigarette, coughs a few more times. Andrew says, can I tell you a secret? I don't really know you, but I think you'd understand. Link says, I don't care. Do what you want. It's a free country. Andrew laughs. Andrew says, I'm mad at him for dying like he did. I know that's selfish, but he left me. He left me to stop a fucking bank robbery. And it sucks because I know he was doing the right thing and I still don't care. He used to always say, anyone can change the world. And he changed mine all right. Then he went and died. And now my world feels empty. I spent my whole life in his shadow, and now I'd do anything for its shade again. Link smiles. That's a good line. You a poet or something? Andrew says, I dabble in my free time. Link says, yeah, I get it. I used to think the world of my dad too, but he was not a good guy. Not like yours. Kind of the opposite, actually. And when he died, it still sucked. I didn't take it well. I can only imagine what it would be like to lose a dad who wasn't an asshole. You just gotta keep on going. Brute force through it. It gets better. Andrew's phone vibrates and he looks at it. He lets out a sigh and drops a cigarette, smashing it to the ground against his foot. He says, you have a name? Link says, it's Ruth, like the baseball player. Andrew says, I'm Andrew. He sticks out a hand and she shakes it. Well, Ruth, like the baseball player. Thanks for the advice. I appreciate it, but I probably need to get back in. Ruth says, yeah, I probably do too, but I won't. Good luck. And I'm sorry, I mean that. I am sorry. Andrew says, thank you for your sympathies. After he leaves, she watches him go, takes another drag of her own cigarette, and looks at the birds again. We're going to cut to a club. Text on screen says 4 years later. We can see it's in the middle of a warehouse district. We see an older Lynx walk up to the club. She keeps her little flex metal whip as it belts around her waist. We recognize it. And I guess I'll describe what this actually is, because it comes up in the script, but not really in detail. Not yet, anyway. So I imagine this is something like Memory Steel. I got the idea from the book series Red Rising. They have these things called razors in that book, which is sort of what I based this on, but I made this a little more versatile. Basically, it's a metal that can change shape within its own sort of logic. Like, it can't become like a shield or something, but she can make it sharp, she can make it a rope, she can make it like a prong. Basically, it's controlled by her mind. And if I describe what she looks like, she has like little like technoids in her head, like kind of put into the back of her hair. So she like controls the metal with her mind. We kind of saw her do it before. I think this is a cool change to Lynx. Lynx is such a nothing character in the comics. She's kind of like a Catwoman ripoff, I suppose. But I decided to give her something that makes her kind of fun. I actually like Lynx a lot in this iteration of her. So I'm curious to see what y'all think. We can barely tell what it is. It just looks like trendy clothes. If we hadn't seen it earlier, we wouldn't know. She approaches a guard at the door who pulls out a metal detecting wand. He passes it over the belt, but it doesn't activate. They let her inside. The club pulses with punk music. Her dyed hair... I should mention this. In this scene, she has like fluorescent pink hair. We haven't seen that in her. In her appearance earlier, she probably has another kind of dyed hair. She changes her hair color a lot. Like, I don't know, like Ramona Flowers, I guess. Her dyed pink hair stands out even more amongst the room of club dancers. She pulls a photograph of a man and studies it before tucking it into her pocket. She makes her way through the crowd. She reaches a bar and spots the guy in the picture. The man sits at the bar with a woman sitting next to him. She laughs. He says, "You want to see something really fiery?" She says, "Sure." He gets some alcohol from the bartender, just like solid whiskey, and he snaps his finger. We see flames flick out. They form into the air, make a little dragon, and light the glass on fire before winking out. He holds up his glass to her and takes a shot. Lynx rolls her eyes and approaches him. She sits down and says, "You're a fireball, aren't you?" He looks at her and laughs. He says, "I sure am. What gave it away?" She says, "Look, I'm going to cut to the chase. I'm an 8 out of 10, maybe even a 9. You are Fireball, and I have heard that you have a massive cock." He looks at her and tilts his head. "What?" She says, "Oh, word on the street is you've got an impressive unit." He goes, "It's true." She says, "Look, man, we can play this game all night where I coyly flirt with you and you buy me a drink, but to tell you the truth, man, I just want to plow your brains out." The man seems genuinely taken aback. He says, "What?" She says, "You want to get out of here? I've always wanted to try it with a metahuman, and you are hot." He goes, Sure." He seems genuinely confused. She says, "Awesome. You got a place?" We're going to see them enter an apartment room. The man says, "This is the bizarrest proposition I've ever had from a bar." She says, "Oh, just wait. The night's only going to get weirder." He says, "Bedroom's this way." She says, "Lead the way." We can see her slipping the belt off of her outfit. She lets it drop behind her. It drags on the ground. The metal tip slowly beginning to form into molding to her hand. He throws open the door to her bedroom and she says, "Here's to a night we'll never forget." She whips the belt forward and wraps it around his neck, pulling it tight. Man says, "What the fuck? This is kinky even for you." She says, "Oh, I failed to explain, I suppose. She holds out the other whip with her other hand, and it turns into a blade, jagged and sharp. She cuts part of the banister. The man slowly looks down to the rope around his own neck. She says, "Ha, now you're getting the picture." She says, "Fuck do you want?" She says, "You know, I know a lot about you, Mr. Fireball. Word is you're working for someone called the Alchemist. I know you know who that is, so I'm not even going to play coy. I want you to tell me everything you know about the Alchemist, everything you know about your organization." He says, "I don't know what you're talking about." She slowly looks at him, tilts her head. She says, "You know, about that massive unit of yours." She twirls up her little rope and turns it into a smaller hole. It turns into a blade and slices forward. She says, "Get the picture?" He says, "I don't know." She slightly shifts her hand to the handle of one of her metal whips. The metal prongs begin to slowly grow out of the one around his neck, barely slicing the surface of his skin. Blood trickles down. The man looks panicked. "Oh, fuck, fine, fuck. I don't know I don't know much about them. They give us this shit, man. Makes us stronger. Upgrade it. It works on any metas. Makes us stronger." She says, "I know that. Details." Says, "Well, if you can't afford it, you gotta work to pay off the bill. Peddling it, delivering it to clients, protecting the product." He desperately fishes into his pocket and pulls out a shimmering vial. "That's fucking upgrade." Lynx looks genuinely surprised. She tilts her head as she studies the shimmering liquid in a vial. She takes it. "And where do you get it?" Fireball says, "They'll fucking kill me." Lynx shows her teeth. "I'll fucking kill you." Fireball says, "Oh, fuck. Okay, but you didn't hear it from me." Lynx says, "No, I didn't. I don't remember who I got it from. I don't know, but it wasn't you." Fireball nods as if that's an adequate answer. He says, "There's a place. It's a fucking Chinese apatha. It's a fucking herb shop. The one on Amir Street. They keep some of it in the back. I pick it up. I don't ask questions. Let me go." Link says, "One more question. A week and a half ago, a girl named Bethry Maron was burnt to a crisp in a neighborhood. People said they heard her screaming. She was 17. You wouldn't happen to know anything about that, would you? Because I think you do." His eyes grow terrified. Suddenly, he tries to reach his hand up. Sparks of fire leap from the tips of his fingers. Lynx doesn't even bat an eye as she pulls her blade tight. Metal prongs come all the way free, slicing back and forth. Fireball's head is ripped from his body like it was sliced by a headsman's axe. Blood sprays across the floor. Lynx smiles, whipping her whip back, blood flinging off it as it turns back into a belt. She says, "Murdering piece of shit." We're gonna cut to we're gonna see text on screen that says a week and a half later. We see Lynx walking down the road. She's in civilian outfits in the middle of the street. She's holding a wallet that we can see her flipping through. It's very clearly the human slime's wallet. She looks at his ID picture and smiles, fondly almost. And then she approaches a convenience store, one we recognize. She approaches the front desk and grabs. She approaches the counter where we see the human slime, Andrew, is working. We hear him say monotonally in like a very dead voice, "Hi, welcome to 7-Eleven. I hope you're having a 7-Eleven day. How can I help you?" She says, "Yeah, I'm looking for the cheapest pack of cigarettes you have." He looks up and suddenly goes rigid. He recognizes her. She smiles. You. Oh, shit, no." She says, "Hey, relax, slime guy. If I wanted to kill you, I would have done it last night when I followed you to your apartment. Nice place, by the way. Pretty bougie." Andrew says, "Oh, what do you want?" "Just to chat. Especially after what I know now." She holds up his wallet. He says, "I thought I dropped it when I was fleeing." She says, "I took it out of your pocket about a minute after I hung you up. You really should be more careful with this. And also, it's really, really fucking stupid to bring your ID with you, Andrew. There's a lot of villains out there, and a lot of them are meaner than me. And they do bad things with that knowledge. So, want to take your break? Because we need to chat." We're going to see them standing in the alleyway. She's smoking a cigarette. No, a cheap one, obviously. She says, "So, why do you, Mr. Slime," he says, "human slime. Sure, human slime. Want to be a superhero. And tell me the real answer. I'll know if you're lying." She says, "And I have your credit card numbers. I can charge all kinds of crazy shit onto those if I want. So I would tell the truth." Andrew says, "My dad was a superhero. Real legit one, too. They called him Triumph. He helped people. He was something, right? He made something of himself. And I always thought I'd be like him, but I didn't get his powers. I got the slime thing." Lynx laughs, but not in a mocking way. "I guess I can relate. My father was a villain. Guess apples don't fall far from the trees, huh?" Human Slime looks at her. She looks at him almost as if expecting him to remember her, but he doesn't. He says, "You don't really seem like much of a villain." Link says, "I did kill a guy." Human Slime says, "I saw that." She goes, "Oh no, not him. There was another one before him." Human Slime goes, "Well, yeah, it's not great. You really aren't supposed to do that." Link says, "Yeah, they had it coming. Some people do. And I've got to say, you don't really seem like much of a hero." Human Slime says, "Touche. I just don't know what I'm doing yet, but I just thought villains were sadistic." Link says, "Hardly. Most of us are just people who don't have other options. Not all of us, but most of us. My dad went and got himself killed. My mother died shortly after that. I was an orphan who had nothing. I don't even have powers." Human Slime looks confused. He says, "What's the wire then?" Link says, "I stole it from Star Labs. Some experimental military tech. A smart metal. Could be dull, stiff, flexible, sharp. All from the thoughts in my mind." Human Slime says, "That's crazy. How did you steal something like that?" Link says, "Same way you steal anything else. Look, Slime Guy, I don't want to give you life advice, but I get the vibe you want it, so I'm going to give it to you anyway. You are not a hero." Human Slime says, "Wow, mean and not advice." Link says, "Honest, and I haven't finished yet. With powers like yours, it's just not going to happen. But what you are is a villain. You just haven't tapped into your potential yet." Human Slime says, "I'm not about all that." Link says, "You should be. Seriously. You can squeeze into tight places with that fucking slimy liquid slime of yours. You can melt metal, not just any metal, smart metal, with your acid slime. These wires are tough shit and you went right through them. Bet you could go through a safe too. You're a villain. If it's about doing good, you can do a lot more of it while being bad. Trust me, it's surprisingly easy. Who do you think runs these towns? The crime lords. Fuck, man, these alchemists basically own this entire block. They decide what the rules are. And they're subtle too. Supers never really pick up on them. They just get distracted by all the accelerated supers they're putting on the streets. For them, it's the rule of the jungle. The strongest survive. The craziest, meanest fuckers who will serve get the fucking upgrade. But if you put yourself on the top, you could change that. That's doing good. That's changing the world. You keep running around as a hero, one of these fuckers is going to kill you. They're ruthless. And I don't want to see that happen." The Human Slime says, "Why do you care?" Link says, "You don't remember me, do you?" Human Slime says, "Should I?" Link says, "Yeah, I'd say it was pretty fucking memorable." Human Slime says, "It must not have been." She says, "I'll give you a clue. I gave you a cigarette." His eyes suddenly glaze over with recognition. "Holy shit! I mean, you were her? Ruth?" Link says, "Hey, you remember my name?" "Yeah, one and only. Small world. I laughed my ass off when I saw your ID." Human Slime says, you crashed my dad's funeral once. I still don't understand why you care." She says, "I don't know why either, but I liked you back then and I like you now. I think you're kind of funny, and I kind of want to see what you'll do." Human Slime says, "Well, your crime lord idea is great and all, but there's no fucking way I'm going to be on the top. Not with my powers." Link says, "What if I told you you could? Be at the top?" Human Slime says, "I'd say you're probably a bad judge of reality." Link says, "Look, I came into something. I really don't want it. It's bad news. I shouldn't have it, and it's no use for me anyway. And it's no use to me anyway." Human Slime says, "What are you talking about?" Lynx pulls into her bag and pulls something out. It's the vial of shimmering liquid that she took off Fireball. Human Slime says, "If that's heroin, I'm going to try to arrest you again." She says, heroin isn't white. No, this is upgrade. He says, what's upgrade? She laughs. You have not been doing a good job of protecting these streets. It's been hitting the metahumans hard. It's being controlled by a crime lord, a group of assholes calling themselves the Alchemists. They've been dumping the shit onto every B-grade metahuman psycho on the streets. He's got someone making it for him, but no one knows who. But to a metahuman, it's worth more than fucking gold. It makes your powers stronger permanently. Like the name says, it's an upgrade. And we're talking serious upgrades. Low tier jokes becoming top tier fucking killers. She tosses him the vial. He grabs it. He kind of juggles it for a second, then gains control of it. He says, you're giving this to me? She says, I am. I don't want to deal with it, and the people who I took it from are dangerous to fuck with. Better to have plausible deniability, especially after last night. All I know is it's going to make you stronger. Human Slime says, I don't know. It seems dangerous, and I don't even know what it is. Also, it's easy. Link says, I don't know, man. It's up to you. If I were you, and you really want to be something, I'd take it. The world's a hard place, and you're going to need every advantage you can get. That's an upgrade. I still don't understand why you're helping me. She says, I already said I think you're funny. Not on purpose, but I just think you are. Plus, I think it would be interesting to see what you do with that. Whatever it is, but it's better than those alchemist fucks. And I think that's what life's for. Interesting things. Anyway, Slime Guy, I've got to bounce, but I've got one more piece of advice for you. She says, anyway, Slime Guy, I've got to bounce. This was fun, and we should do it again sometime. I think this time, though, you should come to my work. You know, try to arrest me again. It was really fun the last time you hung out with me. She smiles and says, oh, also, if you're thinking about doing that whole villain thing, which you should, let me give you a piece of advice. There's a meeting happening, a sort of audition of sorts. The Get Out guys. You heard of them? He nods. Yeah, I know them. They're A-list breakout experts on the Justice League's Most Wanted list. She says, yep, those are the ones. Yeah, they're holding an audition of sorts downtown later at this warehouse. She writes down an address on a piece of paper. I really think you should go, even if you don't want to join. Trust me. He says, that's mysterious. She says, it's not mysterious, it's fucking advice, and you should take it. She smiles and says, then flicks out her memory steel to a building post and begins to climb back up. She says, see you around, Slime Guy. The screen goes black, and we're going to cut to part 3. Terraman. We're going to smash cut to Terraman and Reach sitting outside the room for the auditions for the Get Out guys. We saw them here previously at the end of that after credit scene, the one where the human slime first came from. And now you can chronologically put this into perspective with the rest of the human slime's, legendary appearance. Terraman is sitting, he flicks around his pistol, kind of playing with it. We see Kite Man looking over at him nervously, a Green Lantern ring glowing on his finger. Terraman turns to Reach and goes, how long is this gonna take? Shit, I thought this was gonna be fast. We see a guy who looks like a half human, half rat leave the audition room. They pull in another guy who seems to have like a tank of water attached to his back. Terraman says, damn, it looks like they've got every Yahoo crawling out of every corner. This place is fucking weird. Reach says, I don't know what you expected. We're trying out for a team of breakout artists. The kind of people that would join them are, well, they're like us. Terraman nods. What, you mean like the cowboy and the girl who controls gravity? He smiles. She says, yes, that's exactly what I mean, love. We see the human slime take a seat next to him. He says, I'm not too late, am I, for the auditions? Terraman says, no, I reckon you're right on time. He smiles, looks at the kid and says, man, you look nervous. He says, human slime says, yeah, I haven't really done one of these before. Terraman says, yeah, I like your costume, all spray painted. Looks nice. Human slime says, thank you, I like your cowboy hat. Terraman says, thanks, it was my dad's. Human slime nods awkwardly, looking forward, and says, yeah, it's nice to see some normal people. I was a little worried because, Walking in, I passed a rat man, like half human, half rat. Terrorman nods. Yeah, I saw that guy. Interesting characters out here. Human Slime says, yeah. As he sits there, suddenly we see the guy with the water tank on his back leave the audition room. Mirror Master pokes his head out and says, hey, you, green guy, you're up next. Human Slime stands up and says, okay, I'll be right there. Human Slime turns to Terrorman and says, oh, I never got your name. Terrorman says, oh, me? I'm a man of that New West, that Terra Nova out yonder. You can call me Terra Man. Terrorman smiles at him, and Human Slime looks confused and says, oh, nice. I'm the Human Slime. He looks past her, and we see Reach also staring. And she goes, oh, I'm Reach. She smiles awkwardly. The Human Slime nods awkwardly. The whole thing is just extremely, very awkward. Like, I would shoot this in such an awkward way. Human Slime walks into the audition room, but we don't follow him. We've already seen what happens there anyway. Terrorman watches him go and says, what a nice guy. I hope his interview goes well. Reach says, you do realize we're competing against him for the job, right? You know, the one to make money for Goldfield? Terrorman says, well, yeah, but he seems like a nice kid. He's like, what, 18? No need to fight him. Our skills will speak for themselves, and that kid is a nervous wreck. Reach says, sometimes, Toby, you can be just too nice. Terrorman smiles and says, sometimes, men, you can be too jaded. What's the worst thing that could happen? We'll just move on to the next job if the slime kid gets this one. I, for one, hope the kid gets it. Did he even say what his powers were? Reach says, no, he didn't mention it. Terrorman says, well, he's all green and shit. Maybe he controls plants. That would be pretty cool. Reach said, he did say his name was the Human Slime. Why would he control plants? Terrorman says, yeah, good point. I guess he, like, makes slime or something. Terrorman leans over and sees Kite Man sitting in the chair next to him. He says, oh shit, that's Kite Man. Reach says, should I know who that is? Terrorman says, no, he was in a cell block a couple of rows behind mine. He robbed banks with kites, apparently. Reach says, that doesn't seem very smart. Terrorman says, no, I reckon not. That's why he was in prison, he got caught. So we see the Human Slime come out of the audition room. Mirror Master just points at the Terrorman and Reach. They walk up and step towards the same room. Terrorman smiles at the Human Slime. He says, hey, it was nice to meet you. I hope to see you around, Human Slime. We're going to follow them into the audition room, leaving behind the Human Slime. So we're going to cut to basically after the Get Out guys have after Terrorman and Reach have been told they're accepted. We don't see this scene in the after credit scene. Basically, we're jumping in chronologically from, like, you can fill in the blank with that after credit scene if you wanted the exact dialogue that happened before this. Terrorman says, well, I'm surprised you're going with us. I was a little worried. That kid before me was a pretty nice character. That guy, he's a joke. Terrorman says, yeah, pretty much. He dribbles slime out of his fingers or some shit. He was never going to make it in this world. Mirror Master says, yeah, the kid's a loser. Terrorman says, I don't know. He seemed nice enough. Terrorman says, oh, sure, he's your regular Mr. Rogers. It doesn't matter. He doesn't have the skills to back it up. Can't trust someone with a weak power like that to guard your back. He'll figure it out sooner or later. He's never going to make it in this world, and we're looking for better than him. And I think you're it, Terra Man in Reach. Welcome to the Get Out, guys. The camera's going to pan out, and we're going to see the Human Slime listening up against the wall. Tears fall from his eyes. They slowly turn to anger. We see him turn and walk away. We're going to see a black screen that says Part 4, The Human Slime. We're going to see the Human Slime walking back. We hear the same song from earlier, Mind Over Matter, except there's a reprieve version of the song, like a reprise. It's like a sadder, slower version of the song. We're going to hear that version. He passes the Anyone Can Change the World poster. Human Slime lets out but we can see that someone spray painted over it. A sign that says, spray paint that says, The Alchemist Rules. Human Slime lets out a frustrated scream as he looks into the display, his face no longer visible in the reflected surface due to the spray paint. We hear a voice behind him. It's Lynx. She said, "It went bad, huh?" He turns and looks at her. "Are you following me now?" She says, "Yeah, I was. Needed to talk to you." Human Slime says, "Well, if you really want to know, they mocked me, insulted me, said I'm a joke, and I can't even be a villain." Link says, "If it makes you feel any better, I knew they wouldn't take you." Human Slime says, "Why the fuck would you convince me to go? Did you just want to humiliate me?" Link says, "No, I had my reasons, but that was not one of them. I just wanted to open your eyes to some things." She holds out a hand again, and we once again see the upgrade vial, the one he wouldn't take before. Human Slime says, "I told you I don't want it." Link says, "Why? Come on, take it." "I told you I don't want it." Link says, "Why?" Human Slime says, "The last thing my father ever told me was that anything easy that makes you stronger always has a cost. Nothing easy is ever free. He died, and I will never forget that lesson. That is easy." He points to the vial. "Too easy." Link says, "It's funny that you bring up your dad. That's the reason why I wanted you to go to that audition." Human Slime says, "What?" Link says, "After we met at the funeral, I looked into him, checked with a couple of my dad's old friends, and got a name. Today, you got to meet the villain who murdered your dad. And with this, you can kill him." She holds out the upgrade. It shimmers in his hand. We're going to see part 5 up on screen. Triumph. We see Triumph sitting on a bed. His son sits next to him. Andrew is younger here, like 13, 14, like he was at the funeral. Triumph says, "You think it was easy for me?" "No, son. I was born with strong powers, that's true. But that's not what made me strong. There are many metahumans with stronger powers than me. I had to work hard and fight to get to where I am. I train for hours each week, so I am never rested on my laurels." Andrew says, "I just wish I had powers like you, so I could join you and fight with you and change the world." Triumph laughs. "You don't need powers to change the world. When I say anyone can change the world, I mean anyone, super or not. And when something is free and easy like powers, well, anything that's easy that makes you stronger always has a cost. Nothing easy is ever free, and sooner or later there will be a collection on those debts. If you want to change the world, do it through your actions, your character. Do it through your heart. That's what makes you super." His phone vibrates. Triumph pulls it up, and we see a message that says robbery and an address. Andrew looks over at it. He says, "Do you have to go?" Triumph says, "I do. Doing the right thing isn't easy, but it must be done. I know you don't see it, but I see so much greatness in you. And I know you'll do great things and change the world. How could you not?" He floats up to the ground. "You're my son. I love you, Andrew. We'll talk more about this when I get back." He flies out the window, leaving Andrew behind on the bed. We're going to follow him as he flies through the air. The song Walls by CRX plays as he flies through the city in these beautiful opening shots. He lands in front of a bank and then flies up through one of its windows. Entering, we see a crowd of people cowering afraid. The room feels drab as Triumph floats down to the floor. From the vault, we see flashing colors. Triumph says, "Whoever you are, come out. This doesn't have to come to a fight. We can talk about this. You have to know what you're doing here isn't right." Then Rainbow Man steps out of the darkness, awash with colors. "Look what the cat dragged in." Triumph says, "If you won't stand down, then I'm going to have to stop you." Rainbow Man smiles. "Oh, friend, that is not going to happen today." We see Triumph square up, fists raised, for the fight that will end his life. And we realize that it was none other than Rainbow Man that killed him. We're going to cut to a beautiful temple. Lava flows from sort of holes in the wall and spills down into waterfalls and bubbles with them. At the top of a marble staircase, we see a beautiful, massive throne. And sitting atop it is the Sun Baby. The Sun Baby glows with brilliant orange light. It flickers and burns off his flesh as he finishes burning a Teletubby alive, letting his corpse fall to the floor. In front of him, the green Teletubby and the yellow Teletubby are on their knees. The baby laughs and says, "You thought you could stop me? You thought you and this pitiful little fucking gorilla force of yours could take down my Sun Empire? I am a fucking god." He looks upon them and his eyes glow a bright orange. "I should let you know now that your two friends out in that jungle will die within the hour. I intend to blanket the entire forest with jungle. Fuck all those endangered species in that forest. We'll make them all extinct just to kill your Teletubby friends. And then no one will ever stand against the Sun Baby ever again." And that is, of course, where I'm going to end the second act of writing the Teletubbies script 2, Teletubbies Back in Action.
Okay, hold on. Put your pitchforks down, guys. Put them down. All right. Look, I'm in a level. I didn't finish the script in time. That's actually what happened. I wasn't even gonna do the fucking Teletubbies gag, but damn it, it was just too easy. Truth is, yes, the Human Slime script is real. Clearly, it's real. I've obviously written it. You've heard half of it. The second half will be coming out either this weekend or next weekend. I'm gonna try for this weekend as of recording this, and I think I might actually hit that target. The second half of the script is awesome. The twist here, obviously, Rainbow Man killed Human Slime's parents. I think you guys might be seeing where this is going. Let's just say we might be seeing a little more of Human Slime than you would expect, given who he is. And let's just say there's a lot more script to go. The second half of the Human Slime goes to a very dark place. I think you might already be kind of seeing that. And knowing that it's set concurrently to the Get Out Guys 2, let's just say Human Slime might be plot crucial to the third one. We'll talk about that in a little bit. Yeah, when I said I spiraled out of control on the Human Slime thing, I may have done that. Some of y'all who follow my Discord server, I've been dropping hints about what I want to do with the Get Out Guys going forward. You guys might already see where this is going. The seeds are all there. So if you can figure it out, let me know in the Discord server. Also, Discord server, we have one. Anyway, I've been Bjorn. I'm the #1 slime YouTube channel in the lower Texas region. Huge achievement. They gave me a plaque. It was made of slime. It kind of fell apart, so you can't see it, but you know it lives in Canada. All right, I'll see you on the next one. Slime out.